This is a 34-ounce coffee can filled with concrete. I put the 2x4 in there so that it will mount in a vise. Here's the hole. The rod will go into this hole, and then I'll wrap it around the coffee can to form a circle. This lawn sculpture is going to be entirely of steel rod. What I'm using here is RG45, which is a mild steel gas welding rod. Now I'll insert the end of the 3/16" rod into the hole. For some extra leverage to complete the circle, you can use a piece of tubing, a box end wrench. Here I'm using an old welding tip to give me some extra leverage. Now I've got a circle. Cutting the excess off with a pair of bolt cutters. Next I'll braze the two ends together. Notice I have the two ends weighted down with heavy blocks of steel. I want this circle to be absolutely flat. Any steel rod that you have can be used for this sculpture. What I'm using is mostly 5/32 RG45. RG45 is a gas welding rod that you can get at your welding company. I'm using it here particularly because this rod has been around my shop for years. You can see how it is oxidized and even has some rust. I picked out some of the better pieces and cleaned them up with steel wool. Within the larger circle, I'm using circles, parts of circles, and circles that I've twisted into an S shape. Once I've wrapped the rod around a piece of pipe to make the circles, I then cut them apart. You can see that they are somewhat sprung and need to be brought into line. If this was copper, I could twist these with my hands, but with a steel, that's a little harder. Now this is the 5/32, and it is even harder to bring this into line with just my hands. I'll use this large screwdriver, putting half the circle into the vise. So I bring the ends of the circle into alignment. And now, to braze all this together, using a 3/32 flex-coated brazing rod, getting the pieces to be brazed up to red hot, placing the brazing rod in between the flame and the metal to be brazed. Here I'm adding some S shapes. Now for these S shapes, I don't flatten them as I want to use them to add dimension to this piece. So these will stand out or be set out from the sculpture. Now I'll add some of these pieces on top. You can see that I've flattened some of the ends just to make them a little bit more interesting. And I'll braze these on. For this piece, I'm using all steel rod and focusing primarily on circles and parts of circles. A person can take this basic idea and then begin to expand on the idea, maybe even integrating different materials. This is a lawn sculpture. It's made entirely of steel, and it's going to be outdoors. To protect it from rusting, I've used a primer and then a Rust-Oleum aerosol flat black. I want to make this piece so that it appears as aged copper, like an aged copper roof. I'm using some craft paint here called Aqua Bright. Sponge. Picking up some of the Aqua Bright and then just rubbing it on. Now, this is just trial and error until I get what I want. Now I'll use another sponge, and I'll begin wiping some of the Aqua Bright off, letting that black show through. As you can see, it's beginning to look like aged copper. Once I get this side done, I'll turn it over and do the other side. When the Aqua Bright is dry, I will add a couple of coats of clear spray. And here is the finished sculpture.